We are live on Proline TV for a Pigskin Friday. And after what happened last week, it got us off to a really good start talking about the NFC South, Jim. And that's why this week we decided to stay in the South and talk about the AFC South. How's it going?
Well, I tell you what, last week was really fun to talk about. I mean, we had some teams there, except for the Saints, pretty stable situations where, they know what they're coming in, unless there's an injury or something here or there. We know there's three of those teams that are going to compete. I mean, I made it known that I think the Bucs are going to win it again, but other than the Saints, I think the other two teams that are viable are going to compete in this division. The only quarterback that's like really solid from at this point is Stroud for the Texans. And after that, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, there's talent, but we're just not going to know whether or not they're going to take another step. Trevor Lawrence is the biggest one, because I was taking a look at the odds before we came on the air, and Jacksonville is, as far as Vegas is concerned, they're the second choice in the AFC South. But that, to me, is putting everything on Trevor Lawrence. And it's about time that he's got to make that next step. So Liam Cohen is the next in line of offensive, so-called, not going to call him a genius, but, the offensive minds that is going to try to get the best out of Trevor Lawrence. And look, we all hope he does, because we need really good quarterback play in the NFL. I mean, that makes the whole league better.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he came out of college. Everybody said that this guy is like the next coming of, the best ever. And he's what's this, like 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah.
Now, Colton had the best coaching situation going on because it was a nightmare the first year. But then he did have a Super Bowl winning coach right now. And it just hasn't worked.
No. And you're right. When he came out in 2021, so this will be his fifth year, and there really aren't any excuses other than the fact that, look, you could say what you want about, and I know the whole Urban Meyer thing didn't go off well, and there has been a lot of distractions. But at some point, you got to look in the mirror and at least start showing glimpses. He had one moment, which I think his only moment came a couple of years ago when Jacksonville was making that run to the postseason, and it was like, oh, here's Trevor Lawrence. We've been waiting for this, and he's put up. It's actually when they made the postseason. What was that? Didn't they play the Chargers in the playoffs, I believe, that year? And it was like, this is okay. And we all expected the next season was going to be Jacksonville taking off, and ever since then, it's just been a disaster. He's just regressed, if anything.
I mean, they seemingly have a good owner. He spends money, he lets them go, he turns it over to the football people. He doesn't seem to be interfering.
No.
But it just hasn't clicked. And then, I personally think the Colts are the better team and would be second in this, but that's going to depend a lot on what they do at quarterback.
Yep.
Richardson has got a lot of talent, but he's got a couple of bad habits. One, he doesn't throw the ball to where he's looking.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah,
that's a problem. And secondly, he takes on defensive players as if he's bigger and stronger than they are, and every time he does that, and of course, there was the third thing. When he got tired, he says, "I don't want to play."
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though, with Richardson is when you drafted him. And I wouldn't have, but if you did, that you had to understand that you were dealing with sort of like a Josh Allen type guy, that you were going to have to live with him being physical. You were going to have to understand that to get the best out of him, you have to use that big body, that big athletic body of his to make the type of dynamic plays that not many quarterbacks can make, along with that dynamic throwing arm that he has. But that's the one thing that last year we saw a little bit of some of that, but then we also saw a little bit of, maybe not getting him out of the pocket more than he should have and making too much of a pocket passer. So I don't really know exactly what they're trying to do here with him. I was actually surprised that they all came back, but in a way, what's going on with ownership in Indianapolis has a lot to do with it. There's just too much. Even before Irsay passed away, there was just too much turmoil, and nobody knew what really was going on. And Irsay he was just being too generous by giving these guys another year, including the general manager. I think a lot of people thought that the GM was going to go Ballard, but when he stayed, everybody else stayed.
I was one of them. I thought he was gone, but
yeah, a lot of people did. Yeah,
I mean, the terrible loss to Jim Irsay. I mean, there's a lot of people obviously knew him well, loved him, and rest in peace and prayers and to the family and everybody. It was a big loss at 65. 65 is a young number.
It is.
That's people are living a lot longer than that now. So 65 is really young.
And so his daughter takes over. And so far, I mean, if I interviewed Kent Sterling, that, by the way, that interview is already available here on Proline TV, so you can check that out. So Kent told me that, yeah, I mean, that family, the daughters, there's nothing about them that strikes anything close to the kind of turmoil that Jim Irsay had in his life. So it doesn't look like, there's that's going to be the problem. It just looks like, do they have enough football to knowledge from what they've learned from their father? Sort of like what happened with Detroit. A lot of people thought that when I forget, is it Sheila Ford? I forget her whole name, but when she took over Detroit, many people thought, we're never getting out of this mess. I mean, now we got a woman running the organization. It's just not going to, and actually, ever since then, she has done a tremendous job in hiring the right people to run the organization the right way. And that's why the Lions are now one of the staple organizations in football, if you can believe it or not. So I don't know if the Colts can get that lucky, but, they weren't going anywhere. They're mediocrity. I mean, that's one of the most mediocrity, a team that every year is like 7 wins, 8 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins. It's either, you know what the old saying is as far as shit or get off the pot. That's pretty much what the deal is with the Colts. Are you going to go into a full rebuild, or are you going to try to win and go in all out? And this particular GM, Ballard, has just been kind of maybe a little bit too, I don't want to say the word patient, but just a little bit too, he's not a dynamic GM. Let's just put it that way. And
he get good grades, that's for sure. Most people don't think he should be there.
Well, he'll at least get this one more chance, you would believe. But again, I mean, what do they do there with the ownership change? But you would think, one more season, that would give them a long enough leash to determine what to do. Which team do you want to start off with?
Well, let's start at the bottom, which we did last week. We have Tennessee.
Okay.
We didn't talk about the coach, Levis, Ward. Is Levis going to be there? Is he going to get traded? Is Ward going to be the number one? Is Levis going to get another shot? If anybody knows, even close to knowing, it would be you, because you talk to all these people.
Yeah, and I was trying to get my insider interview before he went on vacation, but I wasn't able to do that. So we'll be talking Tennessee in about 2 weeks. But bottom line is, I don't think there's any doubt that this is Cam Ward's job to win. They didn't draft him number one to sit behind Will Levis. I mean, I guess unless Cam Ward gets banged up or looks just so lost, and Will Levis goes out there and looks like, an absolute stud, that this is going to be Ward's job, no doubt about it. And this is Callahan's opportunity now to prove whether or not he's got the goods, being, an offensive coordinator turned head coach, because that was a hiring that was pretty quick. I'm not sure a lot of people thought Brian Callahan was going to be the head coach a head coach in the NFL that quickly. Of course, he's got a father who has been around in football forever, considered one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coaches in the game. Took his team to a Super Bowl. Yeah, they got blown out in the Super Bowl, but he still took them to the Super Bowl. So he's got his father to lean on. But getting back to your original question there, Jim, this is without a doubt, this is Cam Ward's team. And I kind of think Tennessee has got – I actually, in a way, kind of feel, because of all the issues Jacksonville's going on with this offseason and all the changes, GM, head coach, everything, I actually think Tennessee might have a chance to hang with Jacksonville. I really do, because I'm not very high on Jacksonville again this year. And why should I be high on Jacksonville?
Well, we do realize that the Colts, Jags, and Tennessee are not upper tier teams in the NFL.
Mm-mm.
The Texans are, because of what they've done the last couple of years. Stroud did have an off season last year, but there were some injuries, but they have a solid coach. They look like they have the metrics on defense and offense. If their offensive line can hold up and they can keep their offensive players on the field, because they did lose some people last year during the year. I mean, Stroud coming out of college looked like a phenom, but he did back off last year. But some of that could be blamed on the injuries.
Well, that's the thing when you have a team that doesn't have a whole lot of talent. When you do have a few injuries, it's going to just – and then all of a sudden you get players that are making a lot of money. Maybe they're free agents and they're, yeah. I'm kind of hurt here and there. What's our record? 2-8. Yeah, I'm also hurting down there, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to play. As opposed to, we're 8-2. Oh, I could deal with it. I'll be out there next week. I'm ready to go. And I'm telling you, this happens all across the NFL. I don't blame them in a way, because this is different than the way it used to be back in the old days. There's a lot of money at stake. But anyway, as far as Tennessee, let's just go down the line with Tennessee and what they did this past offseason. Tennessee didn't have any big changes as far as the staff is concerned. What I like about the entire division, including Tennessee, is I think most of the teams had a really good draft. I like the drafts that most of these teams had. I actually think that the division as a whole had the best draft, probably tied with the AFC North. Those are the two best draft divisions in the NFL, I believe. That's on my take, of course. But overall, I like what Tennessee did, because not only did they get their hopeful franchise quarterback, but if you take a look here on offense, wide receiver, this kid, Ayumanor, I think he's going to be a really good player. He comes from Stanford, so the kid obviously is smart. But I like this kid here. They also, by the way, added Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson to the room, along with this number one receiver, Calvin Ridley. So I know Okunwako, however you pronounce his name, Wiley, and Helm, the tight end they drafted, that gives them a pretty decent three, a tight end. They don't have really a stud, but I like the fact that all three of these guys have got talent. Pollard, we know what he's capable of and what his limitations are. I still think that they're going to be looking eventually for a really top number one guy. They don't have that guy on the roster here, unfortunately. But, again, you can't fix everything in one offseason. But for the most part, adding Dan Moore and Kevin Zeitler was also huge, because Tennessee's offensive line was considered one of the worst in the NFL. So at least when you have a rookie quarterback like Cam Ward now, you're a lot better off with your offensive line, because Skoronski, and they paid a lot for Cushenberry last year, and then they draft Lathan last year in the first round. They had Skoronski was in the first round of 2023. Then they bring in Moore and Zeitler, and all of a sudden your offensive line is in a lot better shape than it's been in quite a long time in Tennessee, maybe since the playoff days 3 or 4 years ago. So I think they're in pretty good shape there. Again, adding Lockett with Ridley, and you got Cam Ward. So I think their offense, should be very entertaining. I think it should be interesting to keep an eye on. It's the defense that I'm still a little bit concerned with. They didn't add anybody in the offseason at all, except I think the where they did add was in the draft. Nothing in free agency really that stands out. But in the draft, I really love the kid, Oladejo, who they got in the second round from UCLA. I think he has a ton of potential as an edge rusher. Kevin Winston missed a year last year for Penn State, but they get him in the third round, which shows you how talented he is, that he missed last year and he was still a third round pick. So I like those two picks, but still they're a little bit behind defensively. Denard Wilson's a nice defensive coach. So again, all in all, I think they're going to be a much better team than they were last year, because they were pretty pathetic last year. But how good can they be is obviously going to all depend on Cam Ward.
Well, let me throw some water on this fire a little bit. We didn't think much of these draft choices the quarterbacks coming out of college, but now we're saying we're going to turn the team over to Ward, who a lot of people didn't even think that was all that good. And Levis, I mean, you talk about looking like a stud. Well, when you look at him, he looks like a stud. He just doesn't play like one. So you don't think Levis has a prayer of being here?
No, he was the guy that was just one of these quarterbacks that as soon as he had a little bit of success, because he went to Penn State, things weren't happening there. He transfers to Kentucky. And then all of a sudden in 1 year, and by the way, I'm not even sure if Liam Cohen might have been their coordinator at the time. But anyway, the fact is he had a big year. But that's Kentucky. And when you looked at him, you were like, okay, well, it looks like he's got some nice tools, but he wasn't anywhere as good as people were saying. You could tell that he needed work. It was going to take time. And that's exactly what's going on. It's still, this kid needs 2 more years. He's not developed at all. He's still not developed. So that's why I just can't get him as a starter, especially when you draft Cam Ward #1 overall. I get what you're saying. And there's definitely a sliding scale when we have to talk about the difference between Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, the top 2 quarterbacks last year, compared to Cam Ward. No doubt about it. There's a major talent difference there. But that doesn't mean Cam Ward can't be a good enough quarterback in his first year, because he has good tools to work with. The kid just keeps getting better and better every year, from his FCS days to Washington State to Miami. He just keeps growing. He does have a lot of gunslinger in him in a negative way, though, and that's going to be the problem. Is we're going to watch him from week to week, and he's going to make the stupidest decisions, and he's going to force balls when he shouldn't. But he's also going to probably make several plays in several games this year that will elevate his team, and maybe even have a couple of fourth quarter type comebacks. That's the type of kid he's going to be. So he's going to be, but the hope is obviously that you have yourself like a, because what I could probably, the best player I could probably compare him to would be like a Brett Favre type, that he's going to be, there's going to be a lot of good about him, but there's going to be a lot of hair scratching. And then maybe you've got something to develop over time.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to jump into a whole nother subject here, but from what I read, there's a lot of quarterbacks coming out of college
this season. Yeah.
Right. That are ranked a lot higher than what we have. Yeah.
I would say, I think the depth is much better up front, but it doesn't mean that still these guys got to continue to develop. Like everybody's talking about Nussmeier from LSU. And the kid from Penn State. I mean, those two are first round guaranteed lock quarterbacks, but they still have to develop even further. Like if they just came into the league now, I'm not ssure I would rate Cam Ward much differently, but most people are expecting them, Drew Aller and Nussmeier, to have a huge jump in their final seasons before they leave, which I expect as well. And then there's some other quarterbacks too to keep an eye on. But overall, I know the class wasn't all that great, but the one thing about the class to keep an eye on, though, is the fact that there are guys like even Shuck that we'll talk about in a few weeks when we talk about the Saints. I mean, we talked about him last week. We even talked about this. What am I saying? And we talked about the fact that here's a kid that is like 25 years old, whatever he is, an older guy, has been injured a whole lot, but he had one big year last year, and he showed enough that the Saints believe under Kellen Moore that he can become, a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. And the other thing is you see a guy like Dylan Gabriel with the Browns. And we see a few other quarterbacks that were drafted late. A lot of experience, which is, I think, a plus. Maybe they don't have the rocket arms or the great intangibles that some of these other quarterbacks might have coming out of this year's draft class. But I do like the fact that there were quarterbacks that came out this past year that are highly experienced and at least look like that they won't be as lost if they get thrown out there a little bit too early. So, I'm willing to separate Ward with the rest of the top guys, including Shuck and anybody else that got drafted early, Milroe and those. I think Ward is that one exception that I'm willing to say, okay, give him a shot. And I think he has enough tools that he could be a pretty good quarterback in the league.
Now we're going to move up to the Jags, who we're not going to. I mean, Lawrence is going to have to prove himself and probably have to battle with someone. that if he's not doing well, there's going to be a backup that steps in. Who might that be? Now we have to.
Oh no, they're done then. Yeah, it's Trevor Lawrence or bust.
Well,
yeah,
they got Hunter, but I don't think he plays quarterback.
No, he doesn't. That's one position he doesn't. By the way, this is one of those quarterbacks I was mentioning, Seth Hennigan. I think he's going to be a really good number 2 quarterback in the NFL. Who knows if he could be a starter? Highly experienced, lots of production at a really good Memphis team. Not, with the big clubs, but still, Memphis was a very solid football program in their level of competition. But yeah, there's nothing here that's going to deter Trevor Lawrence and feel like he's got to look over his shoulder. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that.
Maybe he needs to look over his shoulder. Maybe that would wake him up. I mean, because he's been asleep for 4 years.
Something's got to work. But let's keep in mind that, and this is the reason why I'm really unsure about Jacksonville's chances, because they had so much going on in the offseason with the coaching situation, the general manager situation, how that all worked out. That wasn't very pretty. Throw in the fact that, they did go after, and I applaud him for it, Travis Hunter, because there was only 2 players in the draft that were considered superstar players, 2 superstar type players that you can say, okay, I know those guys have a chance to be really, really good. Carter, the edge rusher for the Giants, is one. Travis Hunter is the other. So Jacksonville went after that guy. Great. They give up a first-round pick next year as well. So keep that in mind. Jacksonville does not have as bad as this team might be. And who knows, even if they win 5 or 6 games, so let's say they win 7, that's still going to be a pretty high enough draft pick for the Cleveland Browns that they're going to be able to use their own pick and that pick to move up and get one of those quarterbacks. Jacksonville, they probably look at it and say, well, we don't need to do that. Everything is still on Trevor Lawrence. We have to win with Trevor Lawrence. So we don't care about the quarterback next year. We have our guy. We're willing to give up next year's pick for Travis Hunter. I get that. But keep in mind, they have 11 draft picks next year, Jacksonville. They just don't have a first-round draft pick.
Wow.
So at least they've got a lot of capital.
How early are those draft picks?
They've got them sprinkled around. A couple. I think they have a few thirds, second, fourth, fifth, sixth. So it's not like all of them are day 3s or anything like that. So they'll have some ammunition, enough that if they wanted to, they could move into the late first round and trade a few of those picks if they needed to. But look, it's great. They've got themselves a superstar player. I think that's a great move for a morbid type of organization that'll, boost up the fan base, especially when this is probably going to be a pretty weak season for them for the most part. But the other thing to keep in mind is they did not do anything in free agency. I mean, they did nothing. So I look at free agents, and it's like the top free agent on their board might be De'Ami Brown. And this kid finally started to wake up and play some ball at wide receiver. And that's because Jaden Daniels was there last year. Other than that, I mean, maybe Ogba, who's been with the Dolphins forever. Jordan Lewis, a nice nickelback. This is just, they didn't do anything. So that's why you're looking at a team that from last year's roster to this year's roster, the really only impact guy is Travis Hunter. That's it. They're expecting Travis Hunter to, which he probably should. He'd probably boost them like a win or 2, but that's still not enough.
And the word is that they're only going to let him play offense.
That's a good move. He can't play both ways. That's just ridiculous. That was never going to happen. This is the NFL. You're going to get hurt, and then your prized player that you mortgaged, this draft capital is going to be sidelined, and your general manager will be fired. So yeah. And by the way, the general manager Gladstone, I really believe that as long as Cohen continues to coach well enough, because he's got limited experience in the NFL as a top assistant, but as long as he keeps is ascending, Gladstone, who they hired as the GM, comes from the Rams tree. And that's as good as a tree as I think you're going to come from. He was there for 9 years as like director of scouting under Les Snead. I think the best general manager in the NFL. He's a lot of the responsibility on drafting those players that the Rams have drafted to make them a success. So I think they've got a hell of a GM there at Jacksonville. So, man, it's just about Trevor Lawrence. If they can get Trevor Lawrence's head right and they can get him playing the kind of ball that they had always anticipated, it might not be long before Jacksonville is a contending playoff team again.
Well, let's look at what's surrounding Lawrence: offensive line, wide receivers, and your running back, which makes up your offense, and then of course your offensive coordinator. What is missing from that group, in your opinion, that would hold him back, and Lawrence would end up not having to point fingers at everybody else and have to point it back at himself?
I still don't know if he's got a good enough offensive line. And that's always where it starts for every team, especially for these young quarterbacks.
It does.
So that's the thing that I'm still a little bit concerned with, because a lot of people thought in the draft that if they would have stayed at 5, they would have picked one of those tackles, one of those top offensive linemen. And then they would have moved, say, Walker Little back to maybe as a swing tackle, because people think maybe that's his best role. But now, it's Walker Little. He's got to play well, because he's never been given the keys to play left tackle since 2021. Since he's been on this team, he's been basically a swing tackle. Played a little bit of guard, I believe, as well. And they don't have like one offensive lineman that they can hang their hat on and say, yeah, this is an all pro. This is a really good player. They've got players that are okay. Again, maybe Walker Little or Anton Harrison, maybe they take the next step, but these are all just, projections. And they did draft the third round, spent the third round pick on a lineman, a 7th round pick on a lineman. That'll help their depth. I think those players are fine. But yeah, that would be the biggest issue that I would have is, and nothing's going to change. There's no linemen available in free agency to speak of that are worth starting on Jacksonville, as far as I know. So that would be the main issue.
We started this podcast off talking that I felt Texans and the Colts were the top 2 teams. Texans to win it, Colts second. And nothing we've said or talked about with the Jags or Tennessee changes my mind at all, that they're actually, and matter of fact, we got to look at the win totals for their season when we're done here, maybe at some point.
Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to take a look at the win totals.
To me, the Colts are a better team than these 2 teams. And we have a question about the GM. The owner has passed away. And there's a question. It's another team with a question mark at quarterback. Who's the possibility? Who are the backup quarterbacks for Richardson if he's not going to make it?
Well, they made the free agent move for Daniel Jones, which was a smart move, because Daniel Jones is one of those quarterbacks that needs new life. And I thought Minnesota would have been a really good place for him, because they have a head coach that does a great job with quarterbacks. Indianapolis, well, I don't know. That's still yet to be seen. But I think Daniel Jones, we all know he's got talent. He was a first-round draft pick for the Giants, so they have 2 first-round draft picks competing for the job. And I really like the pick that they made for Riley Leonard in round 6, because Riley Leonard also fits the same mold as Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, very athletic, and like I was saying before, highly experienced. So Leonard is not winning the job this year, but I like the pick because it gives them some insurance that in the next year or 2, if Richardson or Jones doesn't hit, well, maybe Leonard will by then. So I like that in that pick. But yeah, it's a talented quarterback room, but obviously none of these guys has stepped up to become a legitimate NFL starter yet. But that's up to the coaches and hopefully the quarterbacks.
The only solid quarterback we have in here that we know he's going to get the job, and if he stays healthy, he'll be there all year, is Stroud for the Texans.
In the division, yes, which is why they're the clear favorite.
Which is why they're the clear favorite, deserve to be.
Yep.
Solid coach. Some injuries on the offensive line and wide receiver last year that held them back. But clearly, when you look at the win totals for the Colts, maybe 7, maybe 8.
We could. We didn't go over them when we started, so we can go over them all when we're done.
But the Jags in Tennessee, you might be looking at 4s and 5s.
Well, they're not. But
maybe there should be.
But maybe they should be. Let's just quickly move on from the Colts and then Texans, and then we'll go ahead and go through all that, because just, keep in mind the Colts made a great move by picking up Tyler Warren. I mean, this is a talented tight end. This is the best thing that may ever happen to Anthony Richardson. He needs somebody that, will be in that zone of accuracy that will really benefit him. So that's a huge pickup for the Colts. We know how good Jonathan Taylor is at running back. And you still have Michael Pittman at receiver. Josh Downs is a really fine receiver as well. And they're hoping Adonai Mitchell can take that next step. So, and the offensive line, yes, they've got a couple of guys that they're counting on that they drafted last year. But for the most part, it's a solid offensive line. So this still, again, it actually, because they have a better offensive line than Jacksonville, they have a better chance than Jacksonville, which is another reason why I think we both think that they're more capable than Jacksonville. But still, at this point, Trevor Lawrence, if we're saying, well, who do you want, Trevor Lawrence or Anthony Richardson, we're still taking Trevor Lawrence, aren't we? At this point.
I'm getting really tired of betting on Lawrence to be anything, because it is 4 years.
Yeah,
and it's kind of that gets old. Richardson is newer. He's different kind of player. If anybody can get him out of the bad habits, he might have more talent than Lawrence after 4 years of failure.
Yeah, well, I think at least that we've seen in the NFL lately that if you can keep getting chances, and if you especially and Gino might be a little bit more of a surprise, but Sam, because it happened when he was a little bit younger, I think is the perfect example of a guy who did not have enough college experience and there was too much wow factor on him at too early in his career. And he should have been another guy that it should have happened slower. He should have sat for a year, maybe even 2 years.
Correct.
And so now, and then he goes finally to a team where they have a really good coach that knows how to coach quarterbacks, and it's the perfect situation. And there you go. So that's why I still think that like forget Richardson because he's so young, but even Lawrence, maybe for whatever reason, you can say what you want about the former staff, but sometimes it's also whether it's scheme or, just seeing eye to eye with a certain coach. Maybe Cohen is the perfect fit for Trevor Lawrence. We don't know. And if it is, by the way, all of this talk about them winning 4 or 5 games goes out the window, and they could be a playoff team. So that's what I like about the NFL, by the way.
Well, yeah, you can go from last to first. In this league,
they're not that deprived of talent, Jacksonville. They just need better quarterback play to get them over the hump of being a playoff caliber team. It doesn't mean they're going to the Super Bowl, but still being a 7 seed in the AFC is not far-fetched if their quarterback plays well.
When I look at the Colts versus Jags in Tennessee, I look at the Colts having a reasonably solid offensive line and a very good running game. If you can just control that around that and play that game, they have a coach that we thought was going to be really excellent. Didn't work all that well last year, but
not so far.
No, but if this gets, they have the makings of being something. I'm not going to go back to on the waterfront that I could have been a champion. I could have been somebody. I'm not going to
do that. but yeah, they've got the talent too. Absolutely. Again, it goes up to the quarterback.
If Texans fold and Stroud goes down, the Colts would be my choice to move into that spot, but not the other two.
Yeah, and I think another reason is the Colts on defense. If you look at them on defense, they've got one of the best tackle tandems, especially. We all know how good Buckner is. They've made 3 high draft picks on edge rushers, including the kid from Ohio State in the 2nd round. So they got Kwity Paye. They have Latu, who they drafted in the 1st round last year. So their defensive line could be really good if those young edge rushers all develop as planned. Also, in the secondary, I think they got a little bit better. They got a little bit more depth. They had some injury issues back there. They added a 3rd round draft pick who I like in Justin Wally. So, yeah, I think the Colts defense, again, they don't need to be great, but if they can just be, top 15 type of defense, which they weren't even close to last year. And again, I think they can be. then it's up to Richardson. Again, if he develops, that's why I'm saying, like I was saying before, Richardson, I think you just have to go with it and say, you know what, I got to use Richardson in the type of way where if he has to run the ball 5 or 10 times a game, so be it, because that's how that's what I got here. That's what this kid is. I have to take advantage of his size and athleticism. I got to get him out of the pocket.
I don't mind him running. He just got to avoid getting hit. They can't look for somebody to hit.
No, I mean, because look at Josh Allen.
Yes,
he hardly ever leaves the game, and he's getting murdered out there left and right, and he's inflicting pain himself. So there is a smart way of doing it, though, like you said, and Richardson has to learn that. So yeah, so I agree. I think that if all things are equal and the Colts get something out of Richardson, then I think they're the better team than Jacksonville.
Now we go to the Texans, who Stroud looked like a world beater year one. Everything working for him. They looked awesome. Last year, a lot of things fell apart. But I think
and they still won the division in a playoff game.
Yeah. I think he's enormously talented. I like a lot about this team. I think they're very capable of causing a lot of damage. If they stay healthy, they can do some damage in the playoffs.
I was talking to Cole Thompson, who covers Houston. Again, the interview is on the channel. And and I see where he was coming from, but he's not very positive about what's gone on this last couple of years. And I'm going to direct it to one spot, and I'm completely agreeable with him on this. With everything that Houston's kind of done well, CJ Stroud, I think that the trade that they made to acquire Will Anderson that year, 2023, when it was a blockbuster. We got CJ Stroud and Will Anderson in the same draft. That's what just exploded this team the last couple of years. And even the Derek Stingley draft pick in 2022 in the first round has come along. And now you're seeing superstar players, and it's like, wow, all this wow. But the problem that's holding them back is they have just such a uninspiring offensive line. The offensive line is the worst offensive line in the NFL for contending Super Bowl teams.
Well, that is not good, because the offensive line is the most important unit. I mean,
and I don't understand why Caserio, the GM, he just hasn't been able to get it right. I mean, he used 2 second-round draft picks in consecutive years on these 2 players, Scruggs and Fisher, who should never have been drafted in the second round and who have not played like second rounders so far. I mean, these are high draft picks that have not hit. And by the way, he lost his left tackle. They let their top lineman go. So they went ahead and decided, well, Cam Robinson, a cheaper player, not as good, nowhere near as good. I mean, Cam Robinson is basically just holding the fort for a year. By the way, he was the left tackle at Jacksonville. So, and he was a bust at Jacksonville because he was a high draft pick, first round, supposed to be this, big time guy, never worked out. He was just a marginal okay starter. That's it. But when you're drafted that high, that's like a bust in a way. But they did use a second round pick on this kid Ursary, which might be their saving grace, because I think this is the best pick that they've made in the last 3 years in the second round for offensive linemen. So I think they finally got it right with at least one guy in the offensive line. But other than that, the center position is a big question mark. Right guard, right tackle. So I think they're okay here with Robinson, Ursary, and Howard. But here, it's just they're not in good shape right here. So they just need to keep their fingers crossed that these guys will somehow develop. They do have Trent Brown. He's been around. So if he's healthy, maybe he can help them out for a year. Who knows? But the guy doesn't stay healthy. So yeah, that's the thing. And by the way, the wide receiver situation too, Tank Dell, I don't even think he's going to play this year. So you got injured late last year. So he's probably not going to play. If maybe he does, he comes back real late. So that's why they use 2 high draft picks on wide receivers. And of course, no more Diggs. So he's gone. Mechie has never developed into the player they hoped he was going to develop. They do have Nico Collins, and Nico Collins is a stud. He's one of the top number 1 receivers in the game we have today. And they did make a wise trade to bring in Christian Kirk to be the number 2 guy. So there's at least still talent there at wide receiver, and they still have talent at running back, of course, with Mixon. And this kid, Woody Marks, is a really good receiver out of the backfield. And the tight end position's fine. But the offensive line, that's why we're saying, yeah, they're definitely the most talented team. They're going to win the division, barring a major injury deal. But once they get to the playoffs again, is that offensive line going to be able to hold up over 3 rounds against the best teams in the NFL? And nobody sees that.
Probably not. But we're talking division here, and probably not anything further than that, unless the offensive line develops. You're not going to win anything without an offensive line.
No.
And we saw that in the Super Bowl. I mean, if you can't hold,
that's right.
I mean, when the Eagles just destroyed the Chiefs' offensive line.
And that's the Chiefs. Yeah.
And that's the Chiefs.
Yep.
So this is not inspiring division. They can cause a damage. Anything can happen. This is a last to first league. A lot of crazy things happen in this league. Injuries happen. And then somebody else moves up, and all of a sudden a star is born. But let's look at the total, the over and under win total.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's go ahead and bring in the odds. Let's see. You want to start with the win totals? Okay.
Let's do that. That's fun.
Let's go in alphabetical order. So let's see here. That means we're going to go ahead and start with Houston. Well, first of all, what do you think? Do you know any of these lines?
No, I haven't looked at them.
So what do you think Houston should be?
Based on who they're going to play 6 games against the Colts, Jags, Tennessee, they're going to give, I think, 4 wins out of that. I'd probably make it 8, probably 9, 8.5, 9.
Wow, that's kind of low. Okay. By the way,
I don't have their schedule in front of me either. So,
that was the thing. That was another reason why Houston did not have the better year last year, was because they had the last place schedule, I think, the year that they had made the run. And then last year they had a first place schedule.
Yeah, I don't have their schedule.
No, well, it's a first place schedule, so it's tough. It's definitely tougher than most. But yeah, they're actually at 9.5, which I think is
my 9 was not that far off.
I think is fine. I think 9.5 is fine.
Who are their? Let's talk about who their non-division games are.
No, let me pop up their schedule.
You have the schedule?
Yeah, I can pop up their schedule and take a look. Let's see.
Because there's a lot of very talented teams out there. If they run into them, especially on the road, it can be difficult.
Okay, so you've got Rams on the road to start the season. That's one tough one.
That's a loser.
Tampa Bay's a second tough one.
That's a loser.
Let's see. There comes this division crappy team. Baltimore is another tough one.
That's definitely another loser. That's 3.
Seattle on the road's a tough one. That's on Monday night.
I don't know what to think about Seattle. I'm not sure.
It's Monday night at Seattle. That'll be tough. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, Monday night at Seattle is a tough spot. Yeah.
San Francisco, that's tough.
I think that's a loser. That's 4.
Denver, that's tough. That's
5.
6.
5.
More softies. Buffalo, home, that's 7.
That's 7.
More soft. Kansas City on the road, that's 8.
Who's that one just above there? Who was that one?
Colts.
Okay.
Kansas City.
Well, that's
8.
Now we're at 8.
Arizona at home. Who knows?
You don't know about Murray.
We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Raiders, we don't really. That's not easy. That's not hard.
I don't think the Raiders are very good, but
Chargers on the road. That's 9.
That's very difficult. That's a 9.
And that's it. So 9 tough games.
So unless you pick up one of those victories and then don't lose to one of the ones you should win, you're looking at 8 or 9, which is what I.
Well, they're not going to lose them all, Jim. So they'll win a few of them. They're not that bad. They're a good team. So
if they have an offensive line as bad as what you're projecting, they're not going to beat any of those.
Yeah, but the problem though is that offensive line has been there for the past couple of years. It's been the same. I mean, yes, the one big difference is that Tunsil's gone, and that's a big drop. But it's the same left tackle that I'm actually saying is not the problem. The problem is the same problem that's been the last couple of years: center, right, and that hasn't gotten any better. So
let's play a number game here.
Okay.
If I gave you a choice to make the number 10 or 8? Would you choose either 10 or 8?
10.
So you like them to win 10 games?
Yeah, because I can't, none of us can predict injuries. And so if I'm going to just predict that they're going to be healthy, yes, I can't see them winning less than 10 games with a healthy team.
That's a 10-7 record.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we just counted 9 losses.
No, you counted 9 losses. I counted 9 tough games. I'm willing to give them 3 to 4 wins out of those 9.
Okay.
So at least
you're more optimistic.
But by the way, that is very tough. That's tough. That's a tough schedule.
They got some tough.
They do.
Tough, yeah,
that would be my concern. No question. Is that schedule? So,
and if their offensive line develops with their offensive weapons, they will be difficult. They will pick up some of those victories.
Oh, then it's a cinch. 10 is cinchy.
But that offensive line is going to have to hold up against some pretty good defensive ball clubs that we just looked at.
Yep. Okay, so Indianapolis, what do you think the line should be?
7.5.
Yep, right on the number. -110, over under 7.5. And now it's starting to get, this is a little bit more difficult. Because honestly, I wouldn't wager my money on the Colts in this situation. I just can't. I can't bet my own hard-earned money on Anthony Richardson developing. I just can't do it. So, I mean, actually, I think they should be over for 7.5. But like I said, I just can't do it.
Well, with that running game and not turning the ball over like Richardson does, yeah, they should be over 7.5. But if he does what he's done before, then you're probably not even looking at him playing. You're looking at the backup.
And again, I think that because Richardson is no question, he's got to develop all that. I actually think that Tennessee and Jacksonville will be better. First of all, they can't be any worse. But secondly, I do see that, Cohen he's earned the head coaching job. So I'm going to say that I would just see that I just got this feeling that Trevor Lawrence is just, I don't think he's that bad. I've seen it. We all seen it. So I think it's there.
He was one of the highest rated draft choices in the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh yeah. That draft thing was nuts.
But he never developed.
Well, again, he had that year when they went to the playoffs.
Urban Meyer was a disaster.
And then it just went away. And I don't know why. So I know I'm going to be interviewing a Jacksonville Jag analyst soon. So, and I'm going to find out. Because I have had the opportunity to interview their NFL team website's editor the last 5 years, I believe. But I'm going to be looking for someone new this year. And this might be good because I'm going to be looking for someone outside the organization, which will probably help me get a little bit more, maybe more honest opinion. Even though John Osher did a tremendous job for us and appreciated everything he did, especially since he's a team editor, it's always, that's rare to be able to get that interview each year. But I think it'll help. Okay. So yeah, what would you do? Do you like this over 7.5?
No.
Okay. What do you think Jacksonville should be?
Well, I would like it. I would like it if Richardson develops, but I'd probably, I think they're going to end up going to the backup, to the kid that they got.
Daniel Jones.
Yes, I think they're going to, and he will be better than Richardson if Richardson doesn't improve off of what we've seen.
He could be.
Yeah, that would be, and then I would start to say, well, you might be looking at 8 wins, an 8-9 win, 8 win, 9 loss wins. Yes.
Okay. And here's some of those other odds if you want
the alternate lines. Yeah.
The alternate lines. I don't see anything here. I mean, forget this. This is
psychotic. Well, yeah, we're gonna bet over 11.5 and get 850.
You can give me 1,500. I ain't taking that thing. Let's see. By the way, what was Houston's? Let's see what Houston's alternative lines are. Let's see here. Anything stick out for Houston?
Well, is that them right there?
Yep.
You could go over
11 and a half.
Well, I wouldn't go that high, but 10.5 would if they're. I don't see that though.
No,
I don't see that. So that means they don't like that number. Okay.
No. I wouldn't mind taking a chance on this one.
If these three teams below them fall apart,
yeah,
then 10.5 is a logical number. But if it's not there, that means they don't want you to bet it.
Yeah, it's still kind of hard for me to think Houston with that offensive line will go 12-5 against that schedule.
I can't bet 12.
Yeah, that's a little high.
I could get with 11-6, but that's only because they'll have to dominate these division opponents by a lot to do that. So no, I don't think that's stick over 9.5.
Okay,
probably the best highest I'd go.
By the way, if anybody, whenever we are doing these live shows, if anybody out there that watches the live shows has any questions, comments, any participation at all, just go ahead and type it in, text it in there, and we'll answer your question, or we'll respond to.
Even if you write in and say you're nuts, I mean, people say
that's it.
So
we hear that all the time.
I'm good with that.
That's not a problem. All right, what's next? What did you guess Jacksonville yet? No, right?
No, I haven't seen that number.
All right. So what do you say for Jacksonville?
6.5.
Okay.
6.5 or 7.
7.5. Oh, 125, 7.5.
That means they're favored to go to 8. Yeah. Okay.
I just think that's a little high myself. Again, I wouldn't touch it because I could see something positive happening if they click.
If it's 7.5 minus a quarter, that means the real line is like 7.75 instead of 7.5. So that's what that odds mean there. So there's been enough money making that line push up to people. Some people are betting 8 on that team.
Okay.
Yeah. 8-9 season. That's what they're saying. And that's reasonable. That's reasonable.
Any of these alternates?
And not for me, because I don't have faith in what these guys are doing.
Yeah, neither do I.
I mean, if I was going to bet an alter, it would be under.
Okay. Now let's go with Tennessee.
Well,
what do you think the number should be?
Well, Levis hasn't developed at all, and Ward we have no idea about. We've got a rookie coach. I mean, they start the season off on the road at Denver. I mean, that elevation against a good quarterback or a Super Bowl winning coach and a quarterback that had developed last year looking good, and then their defense is pretty strong. So this is going to be tough. I mean, I'm saying the highest you could go with this team, 6.
I'm actually surprised that it's 7.5.
I got to bet it under. I'm sorry. That's
but look at the number.
Automatic free bet under.
Look at the under price.
Where is it?
It's minus 235.
I can't see it. I can't do that. I'm not going to lay that juice. But but here's the thing. You're looking at one sports book. You can shop around and you can find all kinds of things. There's 100 sports books now. So you might find 7.5 minus 125 or minus 135. Yeah, I'll do that. But I'm not laying that number.
What about under 5.5 plus 125?
I'd be more inclined to do that than the 235 under 7.5. But I will shop around. I will look around and bet this game, but I will find a better number than that.
I don't look.
If that was the only place I could ever bet, I would bet the under 5.5. But that's not the case. I mean, there's so many places to bet.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I think there is. I'm not going to look. Last week when we talked about the NFC South, I was really high on Carolina, and we went through all that. You can check that video out, obviously, and we're going to have all the divisions done over the next. We have 6 more weeks after this to go, just regarding this topic, this segment, this format, I should say. But I'm just not feeling it this week. Though Tennessee's the one team that And I'm not saying I think Jacksonville, of course, has the juice with Trevor Lawrence to maybe outplay even though they're at 7.5, which is what same thing as Tennessee, which is kind of funny. But again, I know the line is different. But I do think Tennessee, I don't know, there's something about, I just got a feeling at Tennessee, I feel a little bit more confident about them being better than people think than I do with Jacksonville. So
that's only because you live.
But I'm not doing any of this stuff anyway.
See, you live down the street from these guys. That's why. That's all bias. That's all it is.
Tennessee?
They're close to you.
Yeah, well, that's
a lot closer to you than they are to me.
They are.
I'd rather bet under 7 than 7.5 minus 235. But I'm gonna tell everybody out, look for 7.5. Bet it under. Do not lay that juice though. No more than 150. But if you have to, just bet it under 7 at a better price.
Okay, so we don't really. Do you have anything here that you would do? Did you say anything? We didn't come up with anything, did we?
Well, I mean, I'm going to bet Houston. What's the price of Houston winning the division?
Okay, well, I want to do the wins first because I don't come out here. So the win total. So I don't think we picked one.
Oh yeah, we did. I just bet under Tennessee.
Yeah, but we don't know if you're getting that. That's a guess. I don't want to guess.
I know we're going to get it. If I go out there and look at my outs right now, I'm going to find under.
You think you're going to find minus 120 under 7.5?
No, minus 150. I'll find it.
Okay, so you want to do Tennessee under 7.5 minus 150.
Correct.
Okay. Under 7.
Now the alternative to that is, if I have to and I can't find a better number, I'm going to bet minus 7 at even money.
Well, the problem is this is for this show at this day, so we'll go with the under 7.5 minus 150.
Okay.
All right, but also, everybody out there listening, this is
what's the price on Houston to win the division?
Okay, well, first, are we done with the wins totals? Is that it? Is that the only one you're doing?
Well, the caveat with the Colts is we did say the Colts have two options here. If Richardson, there's a lot of if here, and we're going to see some of it on the OTAs and the scrimmaging and stuff, what's going on and who's going to be the starting quarterback and how much rope they're going to give him. But the Colts have all the talent in the world to run the ball down your throat all day long, and Richardson just to dump off passes and run the ball
and run the ball.
Yeah, run the ball all day long. Throw to your tight ends and backs, and not try to take on linebackers. And they could win a lot of games like that. And
so do you want to take them at 7.5 over?
What's the price? Oh,
it's almost even, minus 110.
I would say that's a bet. Yeah.
Okay.
But I actually don't think Richardson's going to be at the starting position the whole time. I think it's going to be Danny Dimes.
Okay. Yeah. And you're not touching Jacksonville.
No, they have absolutely no backup to Lawrence. If something happens, they got nothing. You could bet it under 4.
If anything would seriously were to happen to Trevor Lawrence, that franchise would be crippled for the next couple of years without a first-round draft pick next year.
Well, they could also pick up somebody off the Flacco. The Flacco's world are out there. You can always go him. He's going to be 90 years old. He's still going to be back up in the league.
Yeah. But the point is if they lose Trevor Lawrence without a first-round draft pick, that means they'll have no way to get a quarterback in next year's draft. And if something happens to him, they are screwed.
They're going to have to make hellacious trades.
Oh, yeah. All right. And about Houston, are you doing anything with Houston?
Well, we talked about that, but the price, I'm going to just go up. 9.5 is the number I like for them. I bet over 9.5 minus 100. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a price. But what's their price to win the division? That's what I want to
Well, okay, we're going to get there. So you're going to go Houston over 9.5. That's even. Indianapolis 7.5 minus 110, and Tennessee under 7.5 minus 150. So now let's go with the division odds. Let's go to the futures. And division winner. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Well, move your ass. Okay.
There we go.
Houston is even, just about.
That's an automatic bet. Right
Okay.
there. That's an auto bet.
Yeah, it is. Because, again, the only way they don't win is if Stroud gets hurt.
You're getting Houston, which is obviously the better team, and you're getting plus money. You have to bet that. It's not big plus money, but it's you have to.
Yeah, expecting, again, there's could Trevor Lawrence take off and be the guy because of Liam Cohen that we've all been waiting for? Sure, it could happen, I guess. But, hey, we're willing to bet against that because that's a pretty big if. So
no, I like the more sure thing with Houston.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm not touching Jacksonville. So that's just a matter of
last week I did tell you the Bucs to win the division, the Bucs to win the conference, and the Bucs to win the Super Bowl. I did tell you that.
Oh, why did they win it?
Well, they're going to.
Okay. Why are you saying it like that? You did tell me.
I did say that on the podcast.
Okay. What does that mean?
Well, that's what I gave out last week.
Okay. That sounds good. And I agreed with you with all of it. So, I mean,
granted, it's a stretch to say they're going to win the Super Bowl, but you're getting a good price.
So, well, actually, I think we took the AFC, NFC, which was, I forget what the odds were, because we could always.
Well, if they win the NFC, if they win the conference, then they're going to the Super Bowl, and then I got to give them a chance to win it.
Well, yeah, but that was not what we picked. We picked the NFC last week. So let me see what let me see what we had.
I'm making an addendum.
Let me see here.
But basically I'm just telling you what I bet, which is what I always do. I always tell people what I bet.
Well, that's what we did last week.
Yeah. I did bet them to win the division, the conference, and the Super Bowl. I did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me see, because I emailed you exactly what our bets were. So
I know,
you okayed them.
Yes, I'm saying yes, but when I bet them to win the Super Bowl.
Well, let me. I've got to find my notes that say that that's the case, because until I see it,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I'm not going to say that that's the case. Where did I put it?
I got carried away,
But even if you didn't, like you said, you can double down on Tampa Bay right now.
Oh yeah, I did shop for some prices. Yeah.
What were you getting? Do you remember?
Oh, I can't remember at this moment.
Let's see. I wish I could. I don't know. I can't find it here. I don't know why. Maybe they're under notes. Oh, that's right. We haven't reminded everybody to keep an eye on our Patreon that's coming soon. So we're going to be putting together our Patreon, and that is going to give you guys the opportunity to, if you choose, we're only going to have a couple of different tiers, but one of the really, our top tier, which is not going to be expensive, is going to give you the opportunity to join our handicapping contest, our NFL contest.
Right. And it's free. There's no entry fee.
No entry fee. You just belong to the tier, and you get everything in the tier, including the opportunity to join the contest.
Correct.
So we don't ask you for any additional money or anything like that.
No.
We have to come up with the one thing we haven't come up with yet is what they're going to get. So we have to come up with something really cool.
Well, we were waiting for Mark to come out of the dungeon because he's making the magazine right now.
Yeah, Mark, when I was going over this with Mark for a little bit, Mark said, obviously we were just spitballing, but when Mark was like, well, I think that just having to compete with us should be prize enough. I was like, okay, I don't know if that'll work, but okay, that's a thought.
You mean those two old guys sitting on a rocking chair at the nursing home?
Yeah. Beat those guys.
Yeah, okay.
And then everybody can put their chest out, and I beat those guys. All right, anyway, I can't find this. Let's move on. Okay, so let's see. Jacksonville, Colts, Tennessee. We don't want anything to do with them. Now let's go to Super Bowl. You're not going to take Houston to Super Bowl, right?
No, I'm not in the Super Bowl.
How about conference? No, not even conference.
No, I don't like them. don't
What
like
are they? If they're 19-1 in the conference, just so you know. So they're 40-1 to win the Super Bowl. Let me see what Tampa Bay is, because you now have put money on Tampa Bay. Let's see. 28-1.
Right.
Does that sound about right? What you got wherever you
with all the shopping I do, I probably gotten 33, 35-1, something like that. Yeah.
Very nice.
Well,
Oh, did you put
when I went into this business 6 decades ago, the first ad I wrote, does a sports handicapper follow his own advice? And I made a promise to everybody then that any game I give out, I will bet. I'm betting it first and then telling you who I bet. That's what I do. That's a thing that I promised to myself to do. So when I give out a play, I've already bet it. So,
and when you said that to me, I did a double take, because I was like, how on earth, how in the world is that not the case with everybody?
well, some people in our business, let's use the word tout, that never bet. They're telling you to bet. It's almost
That's
like
terrible.
It's like a stockbroker that never buys the stocks he's telling you to buy.
Yeah,
I find that to have a lack of integrity. If you're losing on my bets, I'm losing on my bets. I've done that for 60 years. I've done it. Every time I do it. Sometimes I'm not happy that I did it because I lost and you lost too, and I'm not happy both ways. But if I give it to you, I've already put money on it.
And again, I just can't believe that other people don't do it. And
there's a lot of. I mean, there's videos on the internet, guys, and this is such bullshit. Excuse me, but they're walking up to the counter and opening their bag and putting $500,000 down on the counter, making a play.
Okay,
I'm going to tell you right now, that is impossible. It doesn't happen ever.
So this is like what they're promoting about themselves.
This is all fake video they're doing, which you can fake everything now, and with AI and all the bullshit. But no, books don't do that. They won't. First of all, they're not going to take money from you unless they know who you are and they know that you're not a sharp. If you're a sharp, they're not going to even let you come in the door. Okay, there's no law that says a bookmaker, a casino has to take your action. There is no law to that at all. So that will not happen. But you see these people all over the internet showing this shit, and it's bull. It's bull. They're not doing it. It isn't possible.
I believe you, and that's why that should be the first thing you add. Now, is there a way for you to know? Like, you could just say, of course I bet my own money. Yeah. Is there any way to verify that?
For me?
No, for the viewers who are trying to find a good handicapper. Now, obviously, they should go to you, but if they're silly enough to go with someone else.
Just, I've been around 60 years. I've made a lot of money doing this. I've been thrown out of places, offshore, local, because if you win too much, they're not going to take your action. Or they'll say, okay, you can't bet 15,000 anymore. You can only bet 500. That happens all the time. So it's frustrating because it makes it hard to get your action down, but that's why you keep shopping. And there's always somebody else stepping up. But then when you find somebody new, you got to check them out too, because they can take your bet. And when you win, they don't pay you. When you lose, you do pay to them. So you got to know who the hell you're betting for, because every time you get a referral to a new place, you got to get somebody that's going to guarantee them. So,
but you can't, as a consumer, there's no way for them to check out.
No,
you just got to believe the guy or not.
I would not play with anybody or follow anybody that hasn't been around a long time.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty simple.
That makes sense too.
You can buy a Hermes handbag for $30,000, or you can not buy this knockoff for $5,000. Now they look the same. I've seen them, and sometimes you can't tell the difference. But I guess the quality of the material. But it's just you just. I'd say if you're going to do anything, you better know who the hell you're playing with. You got to check their background, how long they've been around, how long they've been doing it. Check and see if there's any bad reps on them, stuff like that. I've 93. This is true story. Nobody talks about this because nobody ever admits they lose. I was 93-56 in the NBA this year, which is absolutely astounding because the NBA, with all their load management and all the crap that they do, is so disgusting to me. But there are ways to beat it. But it's not by power ratings because it's more situational.
Okay.
So 93-56 is a pretty damn good record. But in the playoffs, and I started off good in the playoffs. I was about 67, 68%. But the last 6 plays, 2 winners. So 2 and 4.
It's not the end of the world.
No, but it's not the end of the world. But it shows you that you're 2-1, almost 2-1 throughout the whole season. Now you're 2-1 against. So in short runs, and I had lunch with a guy the other day, and he said, if I put 100 pieces of paper in a bag, and each 50 of this team and 50 of all the teams, let's say there's 32 teams. So you put every team's name in there equally for 100. So, and you reach in and you pick them out. It's possible to pick out 100 losers, not 100 losers, but 10 losers in a row. It's possible to do that because it's so random. So no matter how hard you work, the breaks sometimes go against you. I mean, last night, everybody in the world was on Indiana to beat the Knicks. Well, that didn't happen. The Knicks came out with fire. Indiana, Halliburton he disappeared. He was on drugs or something. I mean, my God, the day before he was like a monster. And then he wouldn't attack the basket. He wouldn't shoot 7 shots in the whole game.
All right, we're off the path now, but go ahead.
So what happens is you never know what these guys are going to do. It's so random.
So basically, that would be the thing that would be that just check. You have to really check on these guys, especially if you're going to be investing a lot of money. Can't you just if you're going to be investing a lot of money, can't you hire someone to check them out?
Well,
if you're going to be investing thousands of dollars, why don't you give someone a couple of grand to check them out?
Well, it's very easy to do online searches about people.
Well, that's true too.
It's almost costs nothing to do that.
It costs a little bit, but you're right. You can do that now.
Go through the effort. You just have to make the effort. It's like let's say you have a daughter and she meets a nice guy that she wants to really get involved with and serious about, and you walk up to her and you say, "Well, you haven't done." Obviously, daughters at that age would have the ability to get online and check. Have you checked him out? Have you looked into his background? Have you seen that there's anything about his family, anything that you should have a red flag about? No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to know anything.
Oh,
that's
screw
so
that.
Stupid. That is so dumb. I hear that. I mean, that's so dumb.
Yeah. I don't think they care about their daughter enough if that's their attitude.
Well,
sorry.
But the daughter should care about herself.
That's true too. Okay. Anyway, I found our picks last week.
They don't care about their daughter enough to not do it on their own. You're right.
And these were our picks last week. So, and by the way, I will make sure that we have these for you each week. So in case you miss some of our shows, we'll pop up what we picked the week before and just give you a total update. And obviously Jim will have updates every week whenever he decides to make a pick after the show on something that we did, just like Tampa Bay winning the Super Bowl, because we had them just to win the division. So Jim doubled up over 30-1.
I got carried away. I said, if they win the conference,
hey, why not?
I got it. Why not bet them?
Why not? Why not?
So,
did you do Baker to win MVP?
No. You know
right.
what? How dumb is that?
You got to get him. He's 25-1.
That's actually a better bet than to win the Super Bowl.
Yes. So that's what we have here.
That's dumb.
Yeah, we got Baker.
I didn't even think of that.
Division, the NFC. We've got the division. We've got the week 1 lines, which we're going to talk about right now, and the win totals all here from last week. So let's go ahead and wrap up with week 1 lines. And again, we have one South against another South. And we already talked about this last week because we really liked Carolina getting 3.5 from Jacksonville.
And you know what? I've actually seen some 2.5s on this game.
It's already coming down somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not sticking at 3.5.
Well, you can see the minus 120 on the taking 2.5.
It's already
So
there. Yeah.
You know it's already getting some money. So there are some 2.5s on that game.
Okay, now we go to the next one, which is Miami at Indianapolis, and Indianapolis is a 1.5 point favorite.
I don't like either team, but by a lot. I mean, I think that Miami is in a tremendous regression period.
We'll be talking about the Miami Dolphins on this network next Wednesday. I just booked that with Jason Sarney, who covers the Dolphins. So if you want to know what about the Dolphins, and I'm sure we all do, check that one out next week. By the way, I'm going to also be talking next Wednesday night with our Eagles guy. And I say that, I don't know why, but I shouldn't say it like that because I haven't had an Eagles guy in like 3 years. So I finally was able to get someone,
Really?
you know, I from someone else. I did with our Minnesota contact, Adam Patrick, has a whole bunch of different guys under his umbrella over at Fansided. And I asked him for an Eagle guy. He gave me one. I've already had dialogue. We're going to do that next Wednesday night. And I feel pretty good about that. So anyway, check that out next Wednesday when we have 2 interviews, Miami and the Eagles.
They open up against Dallas, and I think they're a 6.5 or 7 point favorite against Dallas.
Yeah, the Eagles on was that the Thursday night, right? And then you got the Friday night game.
I think that's the first game, isn't it? Except
yeah,
is that the first game or is it the
first game?
Well, the next game's in Brazil. That's the Chiefs.
Yeah, and that's on Friday, the day after.
Yeah, that's in Brazil, correct?
Yep. So that one is.
By the way, traditionally in that game, the Kansas City Charger game, that would be an underplay.
Okay.
And so traditionally playing in Brazil, what we're seeing there and the conditions and the fields and all that, you might want to make a bet on the under there.
Well, we'll be doing the AFC West soon enough. I haven't even. We'll decide what division to do before the show is over for next week. But yes, we'll remind you when we do that show about taking the under in the Brazil game for sure. Anyway, I agree. I don't like this line for either team. Right, not right now at all.
Maybe we'll see something in practice that we like, but that's too hard to bet.
Now you already have Denver. You did this one. You already got 6.5, right?
No, I got 7. I didn't get 6.
Okay, so now it's 7.5.
Then it's going to go higher. Now there's a big contest, and Andy and I talk about this on our money management, bankroll management thing. There's a big contest here in Las Vegas called Circus Survivor. Usually, what you're talking about here, most people are going to. It's a contest without point spreads. You just got to pick the winner of the game, and you can only use a game once all season. So if you pick Denver in this game, you can't use them the rest of the year. Now, last year everybody picked Cincinnati, and they were a big favorite. I don't even remember who they played. First week of the season, and they lost.
Patriots?
Yes, and the Patriots beat them.
That's because the Bengals, as we all know, are terrible in September.
Well, they lost the game, and 70% of the contest were gone. They were gone. Well, this is the team that they're going to pick this year. And why? Because it's the only team on a week other than the Eagles-Dallas game that's got a point spread this high. So they're going to take the Broncos over a potential rookie quarterback and a rookie coach, and they're going to take Denver. This line's going to go up, and that's why I bet the 7.
Okay. And then the final game is, what do we have? What's the final game? Houston. They're getting 3 at the Rams. This is one of those tough games for the Texans. That's a good game on opening day.
A damn good game. And if that offensive line for the Texans is anything worthwhile, this is going to be a hell of a game because the Texans could. I mean, Stafford is. I mean, you got McVay, you got a great coach, you got weapons. Rams have picked up some weapons. I mean, they did lose the one guy that I can't remember his name right now, but he'd been there for
Cooper Kupp.
Yes, he's gone. But this is. Okay, the conditions at the Rams, probably decent weather. I'm going to guess it'll probably be good.
Oh, yeah. They're playing that stadium.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do with this game. I'm going to bet the over. Over 43.5. Over 45.5, excuse me.
Over 45.5.
Right.
Houston, LA Rams. Okay, there you go. So we've got one finally. Because last week, I think, what did we have last week?
Well, we had Carolina.
Yeah, well, last week we had just the one, Carolina over Jacksonville. Okay,
Right.
so this is the one for this week.
Correct.
It's going to be over 45.5, Houston and the Rams.
And
Okay.
you can shop for lines for your own personal betting out there. You don't always take what you see on the screen. There's different places that are going to have better numbers.
Okay, so let me see what we're going to do next week, because I'd like to do them based on. I tell you what, let's go ahead and do the AFC North. So that's
you're going to stick with the AFC. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Actually, we could do the NFC North. We can go back and forth.
Let's go. Let's
do NFC North, and then AFC North will be in 2 weeks.
Correct.
So NFC North next week, and let's see. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be interviewing my Green Bay guy. Hopefully next week. Already interviewed Adam Patrick from the Vikings, and I've already interviewed Jeff Risdon from the Detroit Lions. And I have not interviewed Mark Carman from the Bears yet, but that'll be 3 out of the 4. So if you want to check that out, don't forget, subscribe to the channel. That's the best way, so you don't miss any of these shows, especially for football, because even though it's not football season, it's a great time of year to take advantage of all of these lines that are out there nowadays. Just like we've been talking about here today.
The only danger of betting early is the injury issue. And
that's it.
You're dealing with 3 months of anything can happen. So it can work for you or against you.
That's why this situation here, the main benefit I could see with taking Houston is just that, well, could anything happen to Matthew Stafford? He's getting old.
It could happen. Well, McVay's not going to play him. He's not going to play him.
I'm just saying he's got to practice. So
in practice, he's going to be sitting there with no pads. I mean, he knows how to. He's been around.
I'm just saying years. He's old.
Yeah.
So old guys don't need to be hit.
I hate to call people in their 40s old, because that's half my age.
They are. They are. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up. And Jim, you are going to. When's your next money management? Are you doing it one next week too, or no?
We're gonna do it after the ATS show, and
on Wednesday.
Wednesday to air on Thursday, and we're gonna concentrate a little bit on props, because props are so popular now. It's not older guys never played props because they weren't available, but now they are, and the younger generation, let's say under 40 and under, are really in love with props. And I got to catch up. Andy's got to catch up. We got to do it, and we're going to do it. We're going to talk about props.
Awesome. Football props.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that'll be on the Playbook show?
On
the Money Management Show?
Money Management Show. So it's basically props on any sport. Like you get a player out, so you look, okay, who's going to get the shots? Who's going to get the ball? Who's going to handle it? So you might move out that way. Or you're playing you a great offensive rebounder against a poor defensive rebounding team. You're going to bet that. So this is what you look at, but it's all about those kind of matchups. What is that thing you just put up on the screen? What the hell was that? What was that?
You don't remember why I got this?
I have no idea what that is.
It's an octopus.
Well, I know that.
No, don't you remember the octopus bet that Victor came up with for the Super Bowl?
Yes.
And I had to come up with an octopus for the thumbnail, and so I keep it here in case we ever need it.
Is Victor coming back? I kind of miss him.
I don't. If he does, it's football season, so yeah. I mean, he was taking. He usually does everything during the summer, but he took the summer off, and Mark is hoping he'll be back for football season.
I hope he's back. He's good.
Yeah, Victor had a lot going on personally, and definitely needed the time off. So
that's good. Well, I hope he comes back.
Yeah.
Because
and then again,
he's really good at what he does.
Yes, the total king. So we will miss that if he's unable to join us. By the way, we will in 6 weeks after we're done with each division. Hopefully, that's the time that Mark will join us because we're scheduling it so Mark will be out of the dungeon. The publication is done, and keep in mind the NFL playbook guide right here, handicapping guide right here, both NFL and college football. Right in every team, all 130.
That's last year, right?
This is last year's.
Okay.
So this year's will be out. It'll be I think he's got Hurts on the cover for the Eagles this year.
He deserves it.
And this will be out real soon. And then Mark will join this show, and it'll be the three of us. And that's when we'll start getting into college football as well on this show with Mark, because by the time he joins us, it'll be, I believe, July.
Do you want me to ask you a question because it would just extend the show, and I know we're running long? Because I can ask you a question. Because I know you'll know the answer.
Okay.
I just read a thing where the nil offer for what's his name? Cooper. What the hell was his name out of Duke? The basketball player.
Oh, Flag
was $28 million. Now, some kids are staying in school and not going to the draft, and this is in basketball and football, because they can make so much money now in college.
Okay.
Nil. That should improve the quality of the college games because they're going to stay in school longer. How do you feel about all that? I mean, I know that I sent you a chart the other day that Tom sent me about how much money these schools are paying. I mean, they're all big schools. The little schools can't pay any money.
I think that would be great. I really do. And that's why I guess when he was thinking originally, like just for a little bit to stay, I guess this is why. And
yeah, that's $28 million to stay in college. Holy shit.
I mean, I think that, it's going to happen. It may not happen for another couple of years, but if this keeps up, sooner or later, some kid is going to stay that second year. And I hope it happens real soon, because then that means start the precedent that the whole sport needs is these kids staying longer in college. So as great as a commissioner as Stern was, and there was a lot of greatness about him, it was the one thing that he royally fucked up, was letting kids come into the NBA far too soon, far too quickly. So, but he was a really good commissioner, and you can't be great at everything, I guess. So,
well, you make decisions, you take a chance, and then you live with the results. You can't always be right. I mean,
I'm sure he felt he was right anyway, because what he was doing was he felt, hey, you know what? Because he didn't really care about, in his estimation, he didn't care about how good players could be. He just cared about getting them in the NBA as quick as possible because it's better for the league.
Well, there also might have been a little bit of a soft spot too, that some of these kids actually needed money. And in those days, the college kids weren't making any money, and they were broke, and their family was broke. And so there might have been a little bit of that involved in that decision. I don't know that, but that's possible.
All right, Jim. I'll talk to you. You and I will talk again on the air, I guess not until next Friday. But you're also going to, don't forget to look for Jim's shorts will be out in the next several days, probably the beginning of next week, regarding baseball, WNBA, and the NBA playoffs, of course, is still in full stream. So is there a game tonight?
No, nothing. There's some WNBA games, but Paige Breckers, who's the rookie out of Connecticut, is now in concussion protocol. Caitlin Clark
is out.
Then remember, twice now I've sent her name wrong on the air.
You just said it right.
But I had to stop myself.
That's okay. You'll get there.
So she's out. The Fever did not play very well the first game without her.
They didn't. I don't know what that says, but yeah.
They don't have here's the other thing is we've got 8 new coaches in the WNBA.
Out of 10 teams?
13.
Okay.
But then there's a lot of new players that moved around. I mean, there's the Fever alone have 4 new players and a new coach. It takes a while, and they've only played 5 games. So, they're only.
Well, you should probably. I mean, doesn't that mean that you should probably not wager as much?
Yes.
Early in the season.
Thank you. Yes, that is exactly true.
Okay.
I mean, you have no idea what they don't know what they're doing because they haven't gelled yet.
Yeah, no, that's right.
The two best teams in the league are definitely the New York Liberty and the Lynx, the Minnesota Lynx. Now, Collier might miss the game tonight against Phoenix because it's a personal thing or maybe an injury also.
Yeah.
But he is the MVP favorite now that Caitlin is out.
Oh, okay.
But she may not play tonight, and if she does, she may not be 100%. I don't know, but that's something to look at.
Well, either way, you'll look out for Jim Shorts on the WNBA, and maybe Jim will talk about something in WNBA, and maybe he'll just look into the camera and say, maybe the best thing is not to play.
Well, last night I didn't.
Okay, there you go. So
there were two games and I didn't play them.
And by the way, you were not doing any college football during the regular season last season for most of the season. But this year you're going to, because we are going to start talking college football real early. We're going to get your juices flowing. Obviously, the transfer portal, just like you were saying with the WNBA, it's the same thing in college football with all the changes with the transfer portal, and it's really hard to figure things out. But we're going to be here talking about it early and often. So once the season kicks off, Jim, you're going to be ready to go to handicap college football this season again.
But I'm going to tell you what the provisor is. I'm going to focus on some schools and some conferences.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to try to.
You're not going to do Rice?
I'm not going to try to do every team, every state, and
you're not going to do Rice against Temple?
No, I'm going to bet Pahrump against Winnemucca.
Yeah, no, that I think they're in the WNBA. Yeah.
No, they're right up the street here in Nevada. That's what they are.
Oh, okay. What, high schools?
No, yes, I think they are high schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the bottom line is college football. We're going to be really tackling that soon. So don't think we're neglecting it. Matter of fact, I'm also going to be, I think I'm going to try to book, I know I'm going to try to book my Penn State contact. I did all the Penn State post games last year for their YouTube channel. So I'm going to contact my analyst from that show. I'm going to get him on real soon, and we're going to start to talk a little college football as early as possible here on the channel. So, Jim, appreciate your time as always. And I'll talk to you next Friday when we preview the NFC North.
Football, what is it called?
Good division.
No, but
Pigskin Fridays.
Pigskin Fridays. I love it. Okay.
Okay.
Later.
See you, everybody. Thanks for checking.